Hey,
Yes,
everybody. I did it.
you did it.
I
You did
caught
the
you off
thing.
guard, didn't I?
Mhm.
I didn't even say
Oh,
the
wait,
word go. I just went.
good counting,
Hey,
good counting.
yes, Kat, you can be Joe C. Of course you can. Absolutely. We got so much room in this world for more Joes. There's not enough of us. It's amazing. Welcome, everybody, to Don't Worry Wednesday. This is the show on Wednesday, and we have fun. And so do you, sometimes. Um, Yes. Normally Ryan is here with me, Static P. He is actually sick. He's got COVID. If you remember, he joined us in the chat last week and mentioned that he had COVID, and yeah, he's getting better. So, but he's still just kind of out of it. So he opted to not show his lovely sick looking mug on the show. But he's doing okay. Like I said, he's getting better. I was chatting with him a little bit on Discord today, and he's getting better, but he's not quite all the way there. So Joe was kind enough to answer my text message when I was asking for people. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, we need somebody to do Don't Worry Wednesday," and yeah, he sprung to action. It was amazing. Look at this guy. He's
Fingers
incredible.
typing so fast in response.
Man, I couldn't believe it. I was like, "This is so awesome." And with us is Princess. Princess, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Ah, thank you for answering. Um, Princess is she's our organizer extraordinaire. She's the person who keeps everything on track for us, keeps everything lined up. She's the person who handles all of your incoming topics and questions and stuff like that. She is just amazing. So this show would be much more difficult if we did not have her. So I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun. But this is Don't Worry Wednesday. It's a show that's all about you guys and your topics. We want to talk about stuff that's going on in your lives. If you would like us to talk about it, you can feel free to post it there in the chat, or you can submit it right on our website, don'tworrywednesday.com. Click the submit a topic button, and a little thing will like come over from the side, and whoosh, then you'll be able to fill out your topic, and you can put your name there or not. You can remain anonymous if you'd like. And that's the best way to get in touch with us. So absolutely, bacon, ribs, and bacon is the Double Cup of Joe show.
Oh my. Oh.
Man, oh man. I last night we had a meeting, and I told Joe that we're gonna start the Double Cup of Joe show
Oh.
again. We're gonna do it at like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Not in a million years.
He just about quit the company.
Walked right on out.
He's like, "No way, man! I ain't doing it. No." Um, but yes, we are not professional therapists or counselors or anything like that. We just want to be your friend. We want to help in any way we possibly can. We want to love you and show some encouragement and maybe some perspective along the way. We know that you're probably smart enough to figure a lot of these issues out on your own. But sometimes it helps to have an outside perspective, somebody who's not in the middle of the stuff, that can shed a little bit of light on there and just show you, hey, maybe you could try this, maybe you could try that. Because I know, man, when I'm in the middle of a bunch of garbage, I have a hard time telling what's up or down or sideways, man. It can be tough. And so I call people.
That's good. Calling people is good.
It is. Yeah. I would post a topic here on this show, but then I'd have to answer my own topic. And then I'd be like, whoa.
Exception.
I don't learn very much when I'm speaking.
Have you tried it though?
Have I tried?
Yeah, like talking to yourself about your own problems is actually really helpful.
Oh, well, I've done that before. sometimes insight will come just like a flash of lightning. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that before. And there's good reason for that. But yeah, so here we are. Welcome. You guys are amazing. Thank you for being here with us. I'm going to go through a list of topics or a list of names here. And I see some of you already here in the chat. And if you hear your name, give us a hey, what's up? Or send us a dab or let us know you're here somehow. And we would be happy to do your topic. So let's see. We have Ash, Anonymous, John O. Taylor, Amira, Nihilus, Wandering Soul, Logan, Pharaoh, and Meow Lado. And if you heard your name, let us know you're here. We would be happy to. Oh, Jono. Hey, what's up with your Mama Moda? Mama Moda? That's a cool word. And Ash gave us a dab. Awesome. So, wow. We've got some people we can do some topics. What do you say, Joe?
I like topics. Yes, let's do the thing.
Let's do the thing.
How do we pick? Is there a random number generator?
Usually I defer to Princess.
Ah, the wise one. Good call. Good call.
Because it used to be that everything was lined up. Now everything's lined up a little bit differently, and when I look at it, I'm a little confused. And so she knows how things are organized way better than I do. So it's an interesting time. We're dealing with some new technology, but we also have some new scenes. Check this out. Watch this.
New scenes? Yes,
Watch.
I like new scenes.
Oh, look at that.
Watching.
There's a new scene. There's a new one. We got that one.
No, I don't know if I like this one.
Huh?
Oh, that one's better.
That one's better. We got this one now. Oh my gosh. That's the most beautiful of all right there.
Yeah, we should just leave it there. We don't need to come back.
The whole show is just going to be there. You don't think so? Oh man, but it's so good. Anyway, all right. All right. So now we've got all these great scenes. It's amazing. But with that new technology comes a learning curve, and we're doing our best to do our best, I guess. So anyway. All right. So looks like we will start with Jono's. Looks like there's some deadlines and stuff going on. Deadlines, claims, and composing. Oh my is the name of this topic. And I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen here in a second. And then, yeah.
Oh, then we can talk about it. Jono's got stuff for us to talk about. Let's go. Deadlines. Oh, those are always deadly. No, not deadly. They're liney. Oh, that's not quite right either. But they are very stressful.
Yes.
So that'll be fun.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so we're here to remove that stress from you by force. I mean, by talking to you. Something of that nature, I think.
Exactly.
So, I am the first and only person to bring something to talk about to Don't Worry Wednesday.
If I may
yes.
hijack the conversation for just a little bit.
You can
Jono, you submitted 2 topics. One of them is not a topic. Was that a title, or were you intending to write more for it?
Accidentally clicked an old one, and then I realized it was old. That's like me when I woke up yesterday and I clicked on myself.
What?
Found out I was old.
Gotcha. Yeah, no. I titled them now. Ha 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 ha. I have the power.
You know a pregnant tag? I don't like this game.
You know
This
pregnant tag?
game's dangerous.
Yes. It's where you run around and you go, tag, you're pregnant.
Oh. That seems unsafe. Very unsafe. I work for a school. That could not go well at all. Just no. This is not a game we play.
Yeah.
No, this is not. All right, Jonah's topic, quick, before we get into other crazy things.
Here's what we're gonna do. This is called deadlines, claims, and composing. Oh my! I'm gonna put the topic right up there on the screen so you can read along while Princess reads it aloud. So, Princess, whenever you're ready.
As most of you probably know, I am a composer, and I have recently received multiple paid commissions that will lead into more paid work if all goes well. Although I'm still a student at university, this is literally the beginning of my dream career. I have been waiting, practicing for this for hours a day for years and years, and here we are. But it came at the single worst possible time. I'm on break from university and visiting home this week, but I came via train, or to be more specific, 4 trains, so I couldn't bring my computer. Instead, I brought my laptop, which has Logic Pro, as opposed to Cubase, which I'm used to. But I've barely touched the software and don't yet have my virtual instrument samples installed on my laptop. After several days of tedious tech setup, e-licensing, and verification, etc., I'm now up and running, but everything is just a massive pain. I'm downloading samples all day, and it's going to take until my deadline next Monday to get it all on my laptop and to boot up, for some dumb reason, some of the samples that are not available, replaced by new ones, which are much, much worse. I'm sick of it to death. This is my introduction to the professional industry as a composer, and I made very bold claims to my employer about what I can and will do. Claims that I am 100% sure that I could back up with results if I was at my studio, otherwise I would not have made them. I am losing my mind over here, about as furious and anxious as I've been in my whole life. Help, please. From Jonah.
Well, thank you so much for that topic, Jono. I tell you, I understand where you're coming from. I have definitely been in situations like that where nothing seems to be working right, and it's just like a mountain of stuff you got to deal with. And not only that, but you got all kinds of other stuff to handle too. Like you're not at your studio. I understand, and yes, it is tough. But I tell you what, one of the people I know who can be very helpful with figuring out stuff is the person right above me. This other guy named Joe. Yeah, you.
Above you? You have someone above you?
I
Oh,
do.
okay. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
you.
images. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm helpful. Perfect. Thanks, Joe.
You are.
Well, thank you for your question, Joe. I think this is a really important and really like a very like specific issue, right? Like it's not something vague or something maybe you're on the lookout for, but something that's actually happening right now. And so I appreciate you sharing something specific because it really helps to get at one, a specific answer, but two, you can use specific answers later on. So I mean, when we're talking to people, whether or not it's our employer or a friend that we said we'd go get coffee with on another day, um, we like to stick by our commitments, and I'm very glad that you said that's what you want to do. You want to stick by your commitments. However, as with anyone, your friends, colleagues, work employers, if you're unable to meet a certain deadline for reasons that are very legitimate, maybe your train got delayed, so you can't meet up for coffee that day, or you're stuck in traffic. Don't like actually be stuck in traffic. Don't make up an excuse. But people are very receptive to, okay, yeah, something came up and you're unable to finish on the deadline. It's okay to contact that person and say, hey, look, I have an issue and I need help with this. Can you extend my deadline, or can we work something else out? Because I'm only going to get part of the way done with what you want. I'm only going to make it halfway to the coffee. Maybe you only have an hour lunch break, and I'm only going to make it like halfway through your lunch break. Can we reschedule? Do you just want me to come halfway through the lunch break? Or in this instance, do you want to push it back a little bit so I can get back to university to finish it for you? Or do you want me to do something partial based on what I'm working on now? So be willing to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. You're willing to communicate to us on Don't Worry Wednesday, hey, I've got something going on. Can you help me? And we're happy to. We would love to. But truly, a lot of it is talking to the person you're working on things to. most people are very receptive, especially if they're your employer who wants to train you and build you up to be a very good professional that can do good, solid work for them. They want you to do very well too. So don't be afraid to say, okay, this has come up. It's unexpected. What can we do? Because it's far better than waiting for. It's far better than waiting to the last minute and then saying, I didn't get that done. All right. Saying something early, especially when things are happening, indicates a level of respect for the other person, and a respect for your time as well. So that's something really good to say. On the reverse side, you've been talking about how you've been working yourself a lot, and it feels like super stressful to get used to this new software. One thing is to just again reframe that as something good. The time that you're spending is not wasted. All right, it is helpful to you. I know it won't feel like it now. A lot of things that we learn as we're going through them feel miserable. And I always come back to the example of my first college professor who told me about accounting. Like, she was an accountant, she loved accounting. And so every one of our classes, which none of them were accounting, she would talk about accounting. And I said to her face, we don't need to know this. We're never going to need it. Can we really focus on what the class is all about? And she treated me really kindly after that, which I am grateful for. But I feel really bad because I proceeded to go become an accountant, which is super ironic. But that wasn't something I had expected. It wasn't a tool I ever thought I would go use. And so all of those discussions that she had about accounting, that even though I listened, I was like, this is terrible. I don't want to deal with this right now. Came back to be very helpful for me. So you might find that in this transition, you learn a lot that is helpful, engaging, and help and really teaches you a new way of looking at problems. Even in your old software, you might go back to the old software that you're really comfortable with and go, because I did this way, I know some new things, and that can be really fun. And I know that Joe over here is a very wise man who's dealt with many similar issues, and he has always managed to find a way through. So I would be willing to bet that he can provide you with even better suggestions than I. Joe, Joe, Joe,
Dude, I don't know if I'm
Joe,
gonna have
Joe.
much better than that. um, that really hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's pretty amazing. You know, when you get hit with something like this, it can all just pile on your head like crazy. And sometimes you get handed a project like this, and there are deadlines and there are expectations, and then all of a sudden all kinds of other stuff starts hitting you as well. You know, other outside life forces will come and try and knock you off balance or keep you from getting there. I've experienced that many times, my friend. And you know, sometimes you just got to relax, take a breath, just be like, okay, I can do what I can do. And that's it. I can only do so much. I can only get this done in this amount of time, and that's if the world is perfect, and the world's not perfect. So all kinds of other stuff happen. Um it's crazy. Uh One of the things that I like to do is I'll take a step back from the project and I'll be like, okay, at some point this is going to be finished. What's that going to be like? And I'll envision in my head what it's going to look like to be done with this project, what it's going to feel like to be done with this project, how it's going to be received by the other people who've commissioned me or whatever. And I just imagine that time of, you know, when the project is done and out of my hands, it's been released or whatever, it's been sent to whoever I was going to send it to, and it's over. I actually learned this principle from an auto mechanic who, when he was working on cars, there were times he did a lot of electrical work in cars, which is crazy ridiculous, especially nowadays with cars becoming more and more computer systems in the car. And he would just sit there and be like, I cannot figure out this problem. I can't figure out this problem. So he'd take a break and he'd walk away from the car. And he'll just go through his head, okay, how does this end? This ends with a completed repair on the vehicle, and I'm giving the keys back to the customer. And he imagines that moment. And it does a couple things. One, it sets our mind toward the future. It sets our mind toward the completion of the task. And that's encouraging because then when we can see something completed in our mind, it can set our mind at ease a little bit, right? Just forget about the fact that all the stuff that's crashing down on you, all the junk that you got to deal with, and all the variables that you don't have any control over. All that stuff can stress you out. And it stresses me out too. But when you can look past that to the completion and say, you know what, this time is going to go by and I'm going to be done at some point. It helps to relax a little bit and it helps to have that forward focus. The other thing that does is it disrupts that stress, like I was just talking about. So it opens your mind to new possibilities and new options, new ways of doing things that maybe you didn't think of before. So, for instance, sometimes I know in order to get to when I'm stuck somewhere, I need to get away from it. I need to think about something else. I need to focus elsewhere. And then when I come back with a fresh mind, I'm more open-minded to options that I wasn't thinking about before that maybe can help me get this thing done faster. It's not always fun to go through that. And sometimes it takes a little while. Sometimes when you take a step away, it takes a little while for you to kind of decompress and de-stress. But if you can figure out how to relax, get the stressful pressure off your mind a little bit, and then open yourself up to those new ideas, what you'll find is that your creative mind takes over. And it really can help coming up with those new ideas. You're a creative person, Jono. You create music. That's very creative. You think your creativity is limited to music? Not at all. It's not limited there at all. In fact, your creativity is in all areas of your life. You can be just as creative in some logistical problem like this as you are in composing. And I know you're very incredibly creative in composing music. I know because I'm working on a project with you and I've listened to your work many, many times for a long time. And I know how good you are at creating sounds and music that I had never imagined. And it's just incredible. So I know you can take that same creativity and apply it to any other area of your life. And you'll be able to help, move that forward. It'd be really cool. So, I don't know. Other than that, I would defer to what Joe was talking about. Definitely stay in contact with the people. Stay in contact with those that have commissioned you, and just lay it out, man. Just be honest. Because here's the thing. Sometimes we put a lot of stock in, getting things done perfectly. But since the world's not perfect, it doesn't always come together the way we want it to. And everybody understands that. Everybody knows that. But one other thing I want to stress to you, Jono, is that your career as a composer doesn't hinge on any of these projects. It doesn't hinge on any of the projects that you're working on right now, whether it's one with me or these commissions you're working on or even projects you're working on for school. Your career does not hinge on any one of those projects. They could all explode and go away, and you would still have a promising career as a composer, no matter what the result of these commissions would be. So I just encourage you, just relax. It'll be okay. Be honest. Be upfront. Let them know what you're dealing with. You know, you might be surprised. People be understanding a lot of times more than we imagine. And I'm going to ask Joe. Joe, do you have anything else? Did you think of something else you could bring to the table here?
No, I just I didn't really have anything more other than to just agree with your commentary on how effective Jono has been in his other projects. I obviously don't work with him on a regular basis because I teach and not music. But the things that I've worked with him on, I find him to be probably the most diligent person I've met. And so I think, that shows, right? It's not, um, even if you don't hit everything to perfection every single time, because we never will. Like, even if it's like right now, we don't always hit things perfect, right, on the first go at it. And even as a teacher, I'm having to be confident, consistently at it. Hey, you could give yourself a little bit more room to learn, um, because especially as we do new things, we need that time, we need that space, we need someone to say, hey, here's what you do in situations that you don't expect. um, and part of that is just aging. I wish there was a simple answer for it, right? Like, if you don't ever want to run into issues, you just do this. But oftentimes it's just the experience of growing up, and I'm sure Joe could attest to that as well in many fashions. But learning to deal with things that you don't expect um, is an unexpected skill, as it were. So and that's really much all I had, was to be an encouragement to Jonah and say, hey, look, you've got all of the tools and more that anyone would expect right now. And maybe we have someone else who could speak into your situation.
I think so too. I'm going to ask Princess. Princess, do you have anything that you would like to say on this topic?
I have a little bit I could say. Some of it's rehashing and some of it's, anyway, I have something I could say.
Perfect. It's all you. You're on the big screen.
And I hear you, Jodo, about wanting to be keen on presenting yourself as a stone cold professional. I very much like to do that too, which does not always mesh with the way that Ryan and Joe tend to like to run the show.
That's why we
So I
have
love
you run
to
it.
But, as you said, on this topic, I've been irritated about everything that's happening at the worst times. Cross-country trains are on strike, so I need to worry about how I'm getting back 165 miles to Lincoln on Sunday or Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. And again, part of being professional is being responsible, understanding what your limits are and expressing that. Because they don't want someone who's going to be like, oh, I can promise you the world. And then the day before the deadline, oh, sorry, I can't make it.
Mm.
That's not cool. And that generally is frowned upon. And generally I've found, at least in my workplaces, that if you have something going on or you have an honest mistake that you make, or you aren't able to do what you wanted or planned to do, communication is key. Because if you can tell them, hey, I know I promised you all this and I can still do this, and but this is coming my way. Here is my plan of what I can do for you. One plan is I can, get it to you, but it'll be late. It'll be this date, because I am not able to get to my stuff. Or I could work on this stuff and I could get it to you at this date, but I can't guarantee that it would be the same quality that I said that I was going to do at that time. What are you looking for? And how can I work with you to bring this project to fruition? Because I am excited about this opportunity and I want to make sure that this work that I do is what you are looking for. So that's what I would do. Because again, everyone has things, so suddenly people get COVID, or they lose someone in their family, or they get an unexpected phone call that their kid is sick at school, or their kid's doing something at school and they now have to go take care of something, or
Yes.
hey, your lawyer called you up and now you have a whole bunch of paperwork that now you have to add onto your schedule too, and that's going to take up so much of your time that you're not going to be able to get to this thing or that thing. Again, it happens. It's going to happen to everyone, and timing is almost always not going to be perfect. Why? Because life happens. So, what I would say is that don't stress so much about everything happening at the worst times. Things are going to happen when they happen, and the best thing you can do is remember that you are flexible, that you have the ability to make something work, and that you can talk with them. Because most people are reasonable. And as long as you show responsibility, that you are willing to do what it takes, give them plenty of notice. Most people want at least 24 hours, but if you can give them more, 3 days or 5 days, the more you can tell them, hey, something's going to happen, or hey, I know that you want something from me. I'm taking a vacation right now, or I have something that I really have to do that's a priority in my life here, express that, because everyone has those, right? And so the more that they know and can work around you and can work with you, the more that you can work around your circumstances and work with them. Because nobody really wants to just, be the jerk and be like, oh yeah, well, you have your father's funeral, but we need you at work that day.
Oh my gosh.
Most places are not that. There are probably some places out there that have been that. And that's a very tough place to be. And that becomes a choice. But that's not the choice that you're faced with right now, unless they come back with that. But if they come back with that, that might not be a place or a piece that you really want to pursue, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have two wonderful options in front of you, two paths that you could take that, potentially would get you more work. So you also have a choice in what you do for work and what environment you pursue. And you're a hard worker, and that's wonderful. So you can pursue that. But make sure that you know what your boundaries are and that you are strong in them. Because you don't want things that are going to push you and push you and push you against your boundaries and push you past your boundaries. Because that's the stuff that's going to burn you out, or that's going to make you feel miserable doing something you love, which nobody wants, right? I feel like I'm pretty confident in that.
I think you're pretty right.
So
to be
honest, I will turn it back to Joe and Joe.
Thank you, Princess. You're awesome. And you're really right. And Joe, I like what you were saying too earlier, that sometimes, or maybe it was Princess, I don't know. It was one of you two wearing blue. But and now I lost it. Oh well. It happens.
Well, this is, I think, Princess was talking about with the, and I think with what Joe's saying here and what we've seen is your personality, Jono, is very much like a ba 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 ba, get it done. And there are some people like Joe and myself, just maybe it's a Joe thing actually, but where it's just kind of like you just kind of let it slide, and we really we really appreciate people who are there and willing to push us to do more and more. So in terms of like letting people know things that they probably don't want in advance, When I told my last company I was working for I was leaving, I think I gave them like 6 months notice or something crazy like that. So it do we have another topic? This might transition into another topic, so I'll save it for that. But basically, there's a thing where when you tell someone something you don't really want to say, people can tell. People can tell when you're like letting yourself out there, and they respect that greatly. Those are the kinds of people you want to have conversations with and you want to work with. So anyway, keep an open mind. Hopefully Joe remembered he found what he was looking for, or maybe he found another trail for us to follow. Oh, nice.
I do remember. And it's the whole thing of, as you feel this pressure, it's like building a muscle. Handling this amount of stress and then learning how to deal with it is a valuable skill in itself, because stuff is going to hit you. And you don't have to necessarily, when you're talking to these people and explaining, about, issues you might be facing, you don't have to go into every single detail about what's going on, because sometimes they might just not get it, right? That happens. Sometimes people, I have a lot of very unique circumstances going on in my life, with divorce, custody, all kinds of stuff happening in the background, which is many times in the foreground of what's going on. And, there are a lot of details there that I can't share because it's fairly sensitive information. But stuff like that, people might not be able to relate. So all I can do is I can explain, I can say, hey, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going. I try and keep people updated as to progress on what's happening. And but like has been said numerous times, I think communication is important. To have some kind of regular communication with the people that you're doing this work for, so then they don't feel like you just left them high and dry or whatever, right? So that way they can still know that they're counting on you. They know that you're still working on it. It's just taking longer than expected. And I know Saule had some good stuff in here. He said, even professionals sometimes need deadlines moved. My capstone project is working with a real company on a project that will be going straight into production. There have been moving deadlines throughout the project. The best thing is to present a solution when you present your project. And this project could lead to jobs for a couple of us with the company when we graduate. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes these things are really important to us. Sometimes they could have a big deal on our career, our future. But if it falls through, it's okay. Try to adopt the axiom that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If this falls through, it doesn't matter. You'll find another way. There's always another way. And maybe a better way. Sometimes doors close on us. And at the time, it hurts so bad. And we're just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is going to wreck everything. But then a couple years down the road, we're like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much of a better place since that happened. I'm so glad that happened. But in the moment, we're like, we're never glad that it's happening, right? Because it hurts. Joe, I don't know if you've experienced that. Have you ever experienced something like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everything hurts a lot more in the moment. Yeah, this kind of sucks. And then you look back and you're like, I'm glad I went through that. Which is, man, that's a really weird feeling, don't you? Wouldn't you say, Joe, of like, oh, yeah, I'm glad that hurt as much as it did.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I feel you. I've been through plenty of stuff like that as well. And then I look forward to those days when it's better, but I also understand, hey, you know what? In the moment, it really, really hurts. So I'll tell you what, Jono, you, and actually to anybody in the show here, in the chat, my DMs are open. You can feel free to message me anytime. If you're stressing out or whatever, I would love to hear from you and just say, hey man, I'm freaking out. talk me down. And I'll do my best, because I care about you guys. And I wish you the best. And Jono, I know you and I, we've got projects to work on. I know I see a tremendous future of multiple projects, with you and I, if you'll continue to work with me. I know I can really stink to work with. But I try to be better. But anyway, thank you so much for that topic, Jono, and hopefully some of that shed some light on the subject for you. It's a tough time, but that stress, the unexpected things that can happen, it's hard. But in the future, you're going to have other situations where stuff is stressing you out, and you're going to be glad that you're stronger for those situations. And the only way to build that strength is to go through these situations, unfortunately. That's just kind of how life goes. We don't get good at something unless we experience it time and time again. But anyway, Joe's covering his face.
No, I'm worried for Kat, their finger. They need your help. Or maybe they were talking for my help. I should have helped them. Their finger is stuck in the dishwasher.
Your finger's stuck in the dishwasher. Yank it. Yeah. Actually, maybe don't do that.
Yeah,
You'd probably want to lubricate it with something like oil or such if it's actually stuck in the location to make it so that it would actually slide out.
That might be good.
So,
but anyways,
the hopefully really accessible dish soap.
Cut it off.
And always trust a guy named Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, we hope so.
We try.
Just open the doors. Oh my word.
Awesome.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Jono, so much for that topic.
Yes, thank you very much. It was good. All right, sleep, my friend. Yes, you need your rest. You're dealing with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for being here.
Yes. Yep. And I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. But anyway, cool. Let's move on to another topic. And
another topic.
Yes, I think what we'll do. I believe Anonymous is here with us. At least I'm getting a message that Anonymous is here.
Anonymous.
It's coming from the air.
The air. Oh.
But anyway, yeah. So I think what we will do this anonymous topic next, and this is called proper pronouns problem. Oh my gosh.
PPP.
Huh?
The PPP. The proper pronouns problem. I can't speak.
PPP.
PPP.
Yes. So yeah, I will. I'll go ahead and put this topic up on the screen there. And you guys can read along while Princess reads it aloud. Princess, are you ready?
I am.
All right. Go for it.
My best friend goes by he, him pronouns. But a few weeks ago, he said stuff that hinted at they, them pronouns. So I asked him, just to make sure. And he said he, him. But he also said he's non-binary. So does that mean they, them? I thought that's what non-binary meant. But now I'm afraid of getting his pronouns wrong. But I also don't want to ask because I feel like it'll be awkward. From Anonymous.
This is good. This is definitely a timely one. We deal with this more and more increasing in our society today, and sometimes it feels like we can be walking on eggshells a little bit, because we're trying to figure out the right thing to say. We don't want to offend somebody. And sometimes it feels awkward to ask. My personal, sometimes I just have to swallow my pride and ask anyway, and just do it in the most loving and oh man, I feel so bad to even ask this, but how would you prefer that I call you? What would you prefer I call you? What would you like to go by? I just want to make sure I do it right. I don't want to hurt your feelings. So, sometimes you can kind of preload that question a little bit. But Joe here, he's a teacher. And in today's society, I know he has to be ultra sensitive to this as well. And you're giving me that face.
Go, dude, say whatever you're gonna say, so that I have to deal with whatever it is.
That's right. Perfect. And he loves me, and that's why I'm going to give him the floor.
True. I do love Joe.
Awesome.
I have never had an unexciting day with Joe. Is that a good thing to say? How do
You think
I don't know
so?
if that's the right phraseology. It sounds right? It's
Sure.
always exciting, right?
It is. Every
I
time.
use the double negative, but yes, it's always fun when I get together with Joe because I don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes he doesn't know what's going to happen. It's great. Science, what's going on? We are talking about a proper pronouns problem where a person properly proliferated. I'm out of P words, but the idea here is that someone has a best friend that they've known for a very long time, and they're asking about pronouns and what to call them. My short answer is just going to be, he said, call him he, him. So just do that, and that'll be fine. And then we're done. We can just go away from this topic. But as with anything else, it's always some nuance. So with most people, if they tell you this is what I'd like to be called, just go with it. They're not going to be offended. If you're worried about what they that they might he said he's non-binary, and you think that means something else, ask them about that. You don't even ask about the pronouns. Just say, hey, what do you mean by that? Can you explain this to me? Because it sounds like you don't fully understand. And asking people to explain themselves isn't always a bad thing. You just have to ask it in a kind way. Okay. There's a lot of situations where our culture thinks, oh, you are asking me to explain myself. I don't need to explain myself to you. That's a very common response with people. And that doesn't always need to be the case. I feel like when I'm working with students a lot, a lot of it is getting that question answered, of asking them, well, can you explain yourself to me? And they're like, how dare you? And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to say there's anything wrong. I just want to know your understanding. I want to see your point of view. And once people recognize that, they're actually very forthcoming. They will explain way more than I ever asked or hoped or dreamed for. And then I sometimes regret the question, but that's neither here nor there, especially since this person is your friend. If you ask them, hey, what do you mean by this? They're just going to explain it to you. So don't be afraid to ask questions of your friends. Don't be afraid to reach out to your friends. Your friends, especially your best friends, are generally people you've spent many times with, many times with, and much time with. And time generally has this ability to make us stronger, make our relationships even stronger, and deal with very difficult situations. I have a very best friend who, as we were going through high school, he and I broke away for a time because he was hanging out with other people, and he was becoming more involved in the way that they acted and the way that they did things, and we kind of separated. And then at a later date, when life brought us back together, we picked right back up where we left off. And that ability to talk to one another and say, all right, this is what I think. Can you explain yourself to me? Help me to understand. It deepens the relationship. It doesn't pull it away. It makes it more full. So that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And I want to let you know, it's going to feel awkward. The deepest conversations you will ever have are going to feel awkward because they're not conversations you often have.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, it's not like I go up to Joe every day and go, Joe, what's your pronouns, Joe? It's just not a common conversation.
My
That
pronoun
we would
is Joe.
Joe. He is a Joe. The best kind of pronoun. Joe, I don't know what the what is it? He is objective. What's the him? Is that it's not possessive? Whatever that
You're a
form.
teacher.
I'm a science teacher. I'm not an English teacher. Let's preface this out for a second, guys. I teach science. I don't teach English. So, and I did not do very well in English. So, but yeah, Joe and Joe's, yeah, that one. So yeah, you can have that. You can have that more full conversation. I remember. Even though Joe mentioned that we would start doing Double Cup of Joe again at 5 a.m., we used to do it. What was it, 5:30, 6 o'clock?
It was pretty early.
It was
It was crazy.
it was
It was
it
when I
was
was a morning person. I was more of a morning person at that point in time. You were still not a morning person.
I was not. I don't know. I honestly don't know how I did it as long as I did.
I don't know either.
And I was late a lot, and I really apologize for that.
It's all good.
But
I'll just never forget when I asked you if we were going to do the show. You're like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, when do you want to start? You're like, how about Monday? And I'm like, okay.
yeah, because I knew if I put it off to like later, I would just say, Joe, can we just not do it? That's the thing. If anything you push off, you know that's if you push something off, it's always going to get delayed. And that's why in this scenario, either you accept his answer that he is a he, him, but don't delay in asking the question, or you never will ask the question. For those of you who are asking, I teach high school science. So there'd be 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, the final years of below college level. So, yeah, I really think that those topics, those conversations that we have that feel awkward, they feel uncomfortable, they are that way because hopefully you aren't having these conversations often enough to feel super comfortable with them, right? For the most part, a lot of what we talk about with our friends and with our families and people that we are close to, we kind of already know, right? It's not that it's assumed; it's that it's out there. People we're comfortable with, we're more free with our interactions and our hand emotions and in what we say, and so we're able to have that information known. And so when we have something we don't know about a close friend or a relative, that feels really uncomfortable because we're not used to it. Like when talking with Joe about some of the things he's talked about today, when I talked to Joe about those things for the first time, I was like, eh. I didn't know this about Joe. And you know, asking questions about it feels uncomfortable, but Joe has really opened up and kind of he's very kind and in talking through things. And if he ever wants to talk to me about anything, I know that he knows he can come talk to me about anything. So being the first one to ask that kind of a question also helps them in the relationship to feel comfortable asking you things. So don't be surprised if you have this question and you get an answer and then you get more than perhaps you thought you were going to. You might get far more. And so expect it. It's a good thing, but understand what is coming on the reverse end. So that's my best on this for now. Obviously, you've got a whole lot of consideration and thinking, and you've already done some, and that's fantastic. But hopefully, my suggestions help you out just a little bit. And I know that Joe has a little bit more as he's been working in the Discord and meeting many people recently. He's got more of a understanding. Plus, he's wiser. He has an air of wisdom that he's gathered over his years.
That's a lot of faith you're putting in me there, Joe.
Yes, and it is well warranted. So
Probably I will say this, Anonymous, with this type of sensitive issue, it can be really, really, like Joe was saying, it can be very awkward to address this with somebody. It can be really weird and strange and uncomfortable. Um, One thing that I learned when I was doing inspections, I was a property inspector. So basically, what I did was I drove around for mortgage companies, and I would take pictures of houses against the homeowner's will. Like basically, I'd just show up and I'd take a few pictures of the house and I'd drive away, and that was really weird. Sometimes I'd have to leave, a door card, a little. I used to, my kids were younger, and I'd say, they'd be like, "What do you do?" And I'd be like, I'd drop off love letters from the bank at people's houses.
Oh my.
And I'll never forget, my youngest son told my father-in-law, his grandpa, he was like, "Grandpa, you need a job like Dad's because he drops off love letters to people." And I was my father-in-law was doing the best he could to not laugh at my son. But, I had set that up, unfortunately. But anyway, what I would do a lot of times people would come out and confront me. Or as I was walking up to the house to hand them their letter from the bank saying, "Why are you behind on your payments?" Or whatever it is. They would be upset. And I understand that. It's weird. Somebody shows up, he's taking pictures of the front of your house, and he's walking up with this envelope in his hand, and he's going to tape it to your door, and, what are you doing? I understand. So one of the things that I got really good at was diffusing that situation. And what I would always do, I would start with, "Hey, I'm really sorry to bother you, but I'm here, the mortgage company was just checking occupancy on this house, and I just had to, they needed me to take a picture of the front. I have to drop this off, and I apologize for disrupting your day." But it's really how you ask the question that's going to be one of the most important things. If you come up and say, "Hey, how do you like to be called? What pronoun you like? Are you he, him?" Your attitude and how you say it is going to affect how they feel in responding to it. So my advice in this would be, I would ask, but I would ask it in a very humble way and an apologetic way, maybe, and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm really sorry to ask you this, but I just want to make sure I don't offend you, and I want to make sure I do this right. So what would you prefer? Are you still going by he, him? Would you rather go by they or and their or whatever it is?" And just ask. Like Joe said at the beginning, if they've already expressed that they want to go by he/him, then there's really probably no harm in just continuing on that until they tell you something different. But Anonymous, it really shows a lot about, the good-natured heart you have, that you really care. You don't want to hurt this person's feelings. And so you want to be sure that you do this, the way that they would prefer. And that's a beautiful thing, that you care. You care about how it's going to affect them. I know a lot of people who just don't care. They just say whatever they want and they don't care. I have, people in my family who their attitude towards everything is, "Hey, I am who I am. I do what I want. If you don't like it, that's your fault." That's their attitude. So they'll just say whatever, and they don't care if it's offensive, because they're just like, "Hey, if you're offended, that's not my problem. That's your fault. You're the one who's offended, not me." And I'm like, what? What is wrong with you? Hey, whatever. It takes all kinds of people in this world, right? But it seems like we could have just a little bit of compassion. And Anonymous, you are showing that you have compassion for this person, and I applaud you for that. And I think that's really, really great that you would tread lightly on this issue with this person. But I think the best thing to do, if you're at all questioning or confused about what you should call this person, ask them. and be mindful of your approach. It doesn't hurt to say, hey, I am really sorry to ask you this. Or I'm really sorry to bother you with this. That doesn't hurt at all. And it lays a foundation for saying, hey, you know what? I feel bad about this, but I really, and you can just explain, I want to make sure I do this right because I don't want to hurt you. And when you approach stuff in that way, for them to respond in an angry or mean way, I would say you can count on them. They're in the middle of a really bad day. It's not your fault. Most of the time, if somebody approaches and says, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry to bother you, but this and this and this, they're usually just like, oh, no problem. I mean, I'd be happy to answer your question, whatever. And it can go from there. And what you'll find is people are welcoming when you ask them a question about themselves. What's everybody's favorite topic to talk about? Joe, what's everybody's favorite topic to talk about?
Whoa, I don't know.
You're like, I put you on the
Food.
screen, put you on the spot.
I think food, right? It's got to be food.
It might be food.
What is it, Joe?
It's themselves.
Oh, that makes sense.
People love talking about themselves. Most of the time. I will say there have been times with my therapist where my therapist is just like, I want you to keep talking. I'm like, I don't want to talk. Leave me alone. And they're like, well, you're paying me for this, whether you talk or not. So it's like, well, whatever. But people love to talk about themselves. They do. And it's especially, I don't know, from my perspective, if somebody's trying to do me a solid or be honoring of my wishes or whatever, it means a lot. And I'm grateful for that. And I can't think of any reason, Anonymous, why this person wouldn't also feel grateful. If you just approach it, humbly, I think it would go really great. So, I don't know. You already have proven just by being concerned about this that your heart's in the right place. You care. You care about this person. And you want to do what's right. You want to do the best thing. So, but I'm pretty sure Princess has some experience that she can relate on this topic as well. Am I right about that, Princess?
You would be right.
I would be right. I'm right.
Nice.
Right.
You're right. Good
Write
job,
it
Jill.
down on the calendar. I got it right. Boom. So, Princess, take it away.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the topic, one of the biggest things that they say is that they want to be addressed by you, by he, him, right? So the biggest thing is respecting that. Maybe that'll change as you hear the they, them around. They might eventually someday be like, hey, I'd like to be called they, them, and at that point, then you would make that transition. But there's a lot of different pronouns that exist in the LGBTQIA plus community, for its very long acronym that's meant to be very inclusive of all the differences that there exist out there, besides just what sometimes gets flavored as black and white. But every person is different, right? Everyone has their own nuances, and one person's going to be different from another. And non-binary tends to be one of those categories that's more like that than others, because it is simply that they are not saying that they feel like they identify with male or female. So that could be a whole space of anywhere between they just kind of don't feel like it to they really don't feel like it to they feel, like something altogether different. And everyone has their own nuances of different feelings that they have, right? And so they just want that to be respected. There are some people with pronouns that don't mind what they're called. They might be like, you can call me he, him, you can call me she, her, you can call me they, them, you can call me z, their. I'm cool with whatever. That's who they are. That's what they like or appreciate. And there are some people that are like, might be like, I just don't want to be called a certain pronoun. Where there's some that are like, I want to be called she, her, or they, them, because those are the two that they identify with. And again, that might be where your friend's at. I'm not going to say for sure, but you know, the thing is if they have something that they're going to want to change and they feel ready for it, they'll bring it up to you. You know, generally if someone, especially when you're best friends, you know, they the first person they're going to turn to for support network on that in their everyday life is generally going to be their close friends, people that they trust to, you know them and be cool with them, because it doesn't change who they are to call them something different. If you called a rose a tulip, it's still the same flower. You're just calling it a tulip, right? But for some people, having that naming to them makes them feel better. And the other thing I would say with non-binary is sometimes there's name changes, especially if a name is connotatively like very feminine or very masculine. They might want a more neutral name, like, you know, Jamie could be a very neutral name. It can be both masculine and feminine, female, male, or anywhere in between name. But if they have something like Christina, they might feel like that's really a feminine name, and they might want to be like, well, I'd really prefer to be called Chris, because that feels more towards what they like. And again, it's a matter of preference, right? And your friend has spoken that, you know, with you and them and their relationship with you, they're cool with he, him. So I wouldn't worry so much about that, because that's what they've asked. But of course you can ask them. And again, the words that I would particularly use to ask someone to be inviting and not like off-putting so much is like, hey, you know, I've heard that you've talked about being non-binary. What does non-binary mean to you? What does that look like in your life? You know, because you're approaching them as like, hey, I want to know more about you. You know, as my close friend, I know that you're interested in this topic. Tell me about it. And that can often open, as Joe had said, the floodgate of way too much information, more than that you've ever really wanted to know. But they're opening up to you about that. And they're explaining what it means to them so that you know what it means to them. Because while there's going to be some similarities, as there is with all groups, every person is going to be different and want to be treated differently. So when meeting a new person, the other thing I would emphasize is that the person themselves matter the most. So you want to be like, hey, my name is so-and-so. What's your name? You know, and great, it's really nice to meet you. I was just wondering, because I want to make sure that I get this right. You know, what are your pronouns? Mine are, and then you would say your pronouns. Like mine are she, her. I also don't mind they, them, because it's whatever. But, you know, I mean, you know, and the other thing you can do if you want to be more in that neutral territory is you can address someone by they, them until they mention something, because most people tend not to be offended by that. But again, everyone's going to have their own preferences. So, you know, there might be some people that are more, they want to be called he, her, or he, her, he, him, or she, her. There's something out there that might be he, her. That might be their pronouns. You know, and you know, so the biggest thing about pronouns is just approaching it with it's, hey, it's cool. I'm here to respect you. And that's my goal in this, because I care about you as a person, or as my close friend, or as my sister or brother, or my sibling, you know, if they don't want to be gendered. You know, you approach that with, hey, my goal is I want to love you. So I would keep that central in however you approach. And there's not necessarily a perfect way to approach, but that's at least what I would do, and I have done for those around me. So I think that's all I got.
Right on. Thank you so much, Princess. And you're absolutely right. I think the core of the matter with all of this is, where's your heart? You know, sometimes you get it's in my chest.
I pointed the wrong side, and I'm a biology teacher.
Did you?
Guys, it's a struggle.
Oh my gosh, Joe.
Actually, I forgot something.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I mean, you did. I know you forgot something. That's why I kept you all queued up, ready to go again.
Someone had actually mentioned in the chat, I don't really understand why some people have other pronouns other than he, him, she, her, and they, them. And again, for some people, they don't feel like they're on that spectrum and they have a pronoun they prefer. It's just, again, a matter of preference of what you're called. If you prefer to be called Tim rather than Timothy, you really wouldn't want someone to be like, hey, Timothy, hey, Timothy, hey, Timothy, when you'd rather than be like, hey, Tim, you know? And again, there's some people that are like, well, I don't like the plurality of they, them. I don't like he, him, or she, her. I don't feel like they represent me. So then they have their own pronouns. And generally, people who have particular pronouns that are very particular tend to be brave enough to be very upfront about it. And a lot of them are like, as long as you're trying, because there's also, of course, the when you mess up and then you're like, oh, I just called you the wrong pronouns and I don't want you to hate me. And you get like all nervous and like, oh no, I called you this instead of what you wanted. The biggest thing you can do is just when you notice it, try to notice it if you can. But when you notice it, be like, I apologize. I meant to say this, but I'm sorry. Take that apology and then try to be better forth. And most of them are going to be understanding because again, they understand that for some people it's going to be harder than others, or that people are going to mess up and make mistakes. Everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as your heart is still in the right place of, hey, I'm trying to respect you, that is going to go over a lot better than, a lot of people that sometimes people will use a wrong pronoun in order to intentionally harm them. And that's generally where their hearts are broken at. They're like, they get really nervous about it, or they get upset, is because they feel like other people are attacking them, even if they may not be intentionally doing so. Sometimes there are, because sometimes people decide that they are strong in their beliefs and that their beliefs are right, and that if someone has other things, then that's not what they're going to do. And that's a choice that they can make. And you can't really change if someone's going to do that choice. But what you can ask for is respect and try to give respect. And again, it's about your heart. So I think that's all I forgot.
All right. Awesome. Thank you again, Princess. Joe, did you have anything more to talk about on this topic?
No, no, not really. I saw mentioned by Ash calling their trans friend ma'am by accident. Again, it's really who you're recognize who you're talking to, and just care about them. I teach, and I have been called a lot of things by a lot of different people. I've been called ma'am several times, which is really confusing. I've been called every other teacher that works in our building, almost. So it's really confusing, when we talk about titles, when we talk about how we refer to people, it's a really nuanced topic. I remember when I first watched there's an anime movie. It's a Makoto Shinkai film called Your Name. And it's a really beautiful movie. I recommend you watch it if you haven't seen it, but most of you probably have. And it really gets, without ever talking about it until like the very end, at what's in a person's name and why understanding someone's name is important. It's a really intricate love story on the idea of knowing who someone is. And so, honestly, the biggest thing you might want to take away from this is just knowing who your friend is, and knowing how they would like to be referred to, and they being whoever they are. So that's all I had. It was a little sidebar. So
You got yourself a little sidebar.
sidebar.
Sidebar. Boom.
So take us away, Joe, wherever you were taking us to.
Where was I taking us?
I have no idea.
Florida?
It's nice and warm there. Maybe.
I think the only thing I have left on this topic, I think is just that, hey, you know what? You're probably gonna mess it up at some point in time. And I know this has been addressed previously, but you know, you're gonna screw up at some point, and it's gonna be okay. Sometimes you gotta say, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. The last thing I want to do is hurt your feelings. And you know, especially when we do something like this, when you know, sometimes this can be a really sensitive issue. And we can do the best we possibly can. We can try as hard as we can, and we're still going to screw up once in a while. This is where having a little bit of grace with yourself, a little bit of forgiveness with yourself is going to go a long way, because yep, you might be mad at yourself. You might be upset. But it's okay. Excuse me. I've screwed up lots of things. In fact, I was just texting with my youngest son just the other day, and he remembered. I said something, and he sent back a frowny face. He's like, "That's my thing." I'm like, "Oh, well, what's my thing?" And he said, "Messing things up." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. You got me." Because I used to program too. I was like, "Hey, what's your dad good at?" They're like, "Messing things up." And I'm like, "That's right. That's what I'm the best at." And we would laugh and have a good time and everything. But I really wanted to help him understand that, you're going to mess stuff up. And it's okay. Just try not to mess it up again. Do your best to clean up your mess and to avoid it in the future. Sometimes that's all we can do. And apologize and be sincere. And like Princess and Joe and myself all said in each of our segments was, what matters most is where your heart is. If your heart's in the right place, they can feel it. They'll be able to tell. They'll be able to tell if you're being sincere or not. Because what's in your heart is going to come out in the tone of your voice, in your body language, in your eyes. It's going to come through whether you want it to or not. So the key, really the key in communication, I think, in general, is sincerity. If you can be sincere in your communication, it'll go a long way, because people can feel your heart. It's not as easy when it's on through text, like on Discord or something. It's not as easy to convey your heart. You can try, and emojis and emoticons help us a little bit with that. But yeah, if you're sincere, that'll go a long, long way. So that's about all I have. Anonymous, thank you so much for the topic. And this is a very, very timely one. We deal with this quite a bit in today's society. People that have a certain thing they want to be called. And we want to be respectful of people, for sure. And that's a great thing. And your heart's in the right place. So I applaud you, and I wish you the best. And, if you want to keep us posted on how things are going, that would be great. So anyway, thank you, Anonymous. And we will move on to a new topic. What do you say, Joe?
I'm down for it. Let us find another one. Hopefully that helped you, Anonymous. Hopefully. And even if it didn't, well, that's all we got. So we can find. Just kidding. But hopefully that was good. If you found something great out of it, good. If we didn't help you, I mean, that's a few less things you have to worry about. So, yeah, I'm ready for a new topic, Joe. What do you have? What's the good word?
All right, I'm gonna go down the list again. I'm gonna say a bunch of names here. If you hear your name, let us know you're here. and we'd be happy to do your topic. We have Ash, Amira, Nihilus, Wandering Soul, Logan, Sparrow, Meowlido, and Saule. And yes, I know Ash was here. I think I saw in the chat that Ash had to go eat or something.
Food. I said food one time and
Yes.
they're gone.
Ah,
But I don't. They don't know if they'll be back. So,
okay.
but they'll try to be back.
All right. Cool. Well,
Otherwise, we can do sparrows.
we
Is
can
that
use,
one? Or is Meow here?
I saw Meow and Saule is here.
Yeah.
I saw Meow in the chat up there not too long ago. Meow, are you still here? Yo, what's up with your mom and that? My ear is bleeding.
No.
What part of your ear is bleeding? Is it the lobe or inside?
Yeah, and depending on what that is would be the difference of whether you should go to a hospital or whether it's something that you can tell a doc or call a doctor about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, either way, you should tell the doctor.
Just go outside, grab a stick, and stick it in there and root it around.
No, Joe.
Don't do that.
For legal reasons,
No,
that's a
don't.
joke.
Yes,
That is a
joke.
We'll make that abundantly clear.
We are not doctors or lawyers.
Or lawyers.
None of the above. And yes, that was a joke. Inside. Yeah. You might want to, that might be good to call somebody and ask. WebMD might help too.
No, they'll just tell me he's dying.
Oh, sorry.
I'm
All
sorry for your loss. Never mind. All right, what are we going with?
right. I think we'll go with Meow. Meow is here, and that one came in first, so we will do that one now. This is called Upswings and Downswings by Meow. And let me get the topic all set up for you here. And yeah. And then I'll post it on the screen. Princess, you ready to read it?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Stalling. We're stalling.
I am now.
No. All right. Perfect. I've done well.
All right.
for
Good
Thank you,
job,
Joe. I
Stalin.
appreciate
You're amazing. All right. I'll put it up on the screen, and Princess, take it away.
Hey, I'm not exactly sure how to put this, but I'll try to explain it in an understandable way. Sorry if it's a bit long. So to start with, I kind of go through what I call phases, which can last for a few days or up to a month, I think. What I mean by this is that I will generally feel a certain way and do certain things over a period of time. And it's evident to me when I'm in a certain phase, especially when the phase changes. It's like I see a clear pattern, per se, form. Evident signs for me of different phases is how I feel. I often shift between good phases and bad phases. On Valentine's Day, I had a clear shift from a good phase to a bad phase, which I'm still in. It is this bad phase that I would like to discuss. In addition to that, I would like to try and take steps towards ending, or at least improving, this phase cycle. On Valentine's Day, I was very much not feeling the spirit of Valentine's Day. I was more feeling lost and confused, and wondering what was wrong with me, and why I feel the ways that I do. Anyway, my mind has been constantly scrutinizing things lately, especially my emotions and thoughts. I haven't gotten any answers. It's only left me feeling confused and broken or messed up. When I say broken or messed up, I mean that I feel there's a certain way that I should be and feel, and that I am not that, thus being broken. Basically, I'm saying that I, in my mind, and my emotions don't work properly, or something like that. Sometimes, notably lately, the ceaseless scrutiny makes everything feel dull and pointless. It also affects my desire to have social interactions, but that's sort of a whole other topic. I think I'm overwhelmed by everything. I'm feeling very tired, worn out, dull, and unmotivated lately. I wish I could just enjoy things and be happy, but sometimes I can't, and I wonder what is wrong with me. I'll end it there. It's already probably been a bit too long anyway. Sorry about being so long and wordy. I hope it makes sense. Any help is appreciated. Thanks. Meow.
Thank you so much for that topic, Meow. I know how you feel. It can be a tough thing to have, you know, differences in mood, differences in, how we're perceiving the world around us. And then sometimes it can change quickly. I know that depending on what happens, I might be doing great. And then 10 minutes later, I'm in a funk. And I don't even know, sometimes, I try to understand what triggered that. And sometimes there's just no answer. I don't know. But a lot of things can happen. A lot of things can scamper across our mind and they can change what we're thinking and how we're perceiving things. And I really appreciate you bringing this topic up. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe and let him take it. And he is super prepared. I can tell. You can tell. Just look at that. Look at that. We got the thumbs up.
Well, thanks. Well, Meow, thank you for posting this. As with anything we've talked about today, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to bring things up that cause us pain. It's like Joe and I said a little bit earlier. Uh, when you're dealing with tough things, it really hurts, but it makes you better for it. And I know nobody likes to hear that. I've been there. I didn't like to hear it. Um, but you do. You come out feeling way better on the other side. And I think that kind of gets at the idea you've had here, where you talk about the ups and the downs, where you're going up and you're like, I got out of that valley, I faced that problem, and then it comes back down, and you feel broken and messed up and hurting. And I mean, I for one, um, I'll tell you that is a part of the human um, part of the human condition, that we are all broken and messed up, and we have to find a way to deal with that, whether or not it's faith in Christ, or whether or not it's how you go about attempting to solve your broken or messed up state. um, that is going to be an adventure for you for many, many years. And that's not to say it's a bad thing. So I'm sorry, I'm bringing my tone way down, like, oh, this is dark and brooding. This isn't really a bad thing. You recognizing this about yourself is actually really good. Sitting in difficult emotions is a good thing. It's actually very, very healthy. If you can't sit in your tired, worn out, unmotivated state and say, why is my life the way that it is, for more than like 12 seconds, that's actually a problem. You want to be able to sit there and go, there's this thing that I'm unhappy with, because it's a motivator. It motivates you to move your life in a direction that would be more enjoyable for you. But you also don't want to stay there. And so I, I just want to encourage you that those times where you feel tired, worn out, and dull and unmotivated, I want you to contemplate that deeply. I know that you're saying ceaseless scrutiny. I'm not telling you to scrutinize it. You don't need to go after yourself with a fine tooth comb to say, this is what's causing me anxiety and dullness. But you need to figure out, all right, I am experiencing this. What do I want to experience instead?
Mm.
And have that direct you towards the things that are the better things. Okay, so it's something I haven't had. I've only had a few psychology classes, but there's this level of, when you are focusing on the negative, you see the negative. And when you focus on the positive, you see the positive. And it's difficult at times to make that switch. But in order to make that switch, you have to stop scrutinizing yourself. You have to stop looking at, okay, this is the state I am in. It's not bad to, it's actually very good to look back and say, how did I get to the state that I'm in? But that should, in a healthy perspective, shift from here's where I am to where do I want to be in? What does it look like? So you can make that move and you can see it. The first thing in order to make that shift is actually consider where do you want to be, because you say I wish I could just enjoy things and be happy, but sometimes you can't. And I'm here to suggest, well, what are those things? What is it that would make you happy? What would be something that you enjoy? All right. It's not just about, oh, I'm doing some things and I wish I was feeling happy about it. Well, that's not how things work, right? Like if I went out tomorrow and decided I'm going to take up snowboarding and it was cold and it was miserable and I'm like, man, I wish this made me feel happy. It isn't. It's not that there's anything wrong with the snowboarding. It's not that that doesn't make people happy, but it doesn't make me happy. And so as you're considering this, consider the idea of what is going to make you happy, and not just temporarily happy. What's going to make you content? What is going to make you say, I am happy in what I did and for what I did? So not just, that was enjoyable in the moment, but that was something that I was like, that was a good thing and I'm glad that I did it. Is what you want to be thinking about. So if you sit in that moment and you're thinking, I'm tired, I'm worn out, I'm unmotivated, all right, you can go ahead. Pull out your phone, look at, if you look at cat videos and you're like, cat videos, that's funny. I enjoy that. But you're finding that that isn't bringing you long-term happiness. I would suggest that you recognize that maybe that isn't what you want to do to be happy. And so keep turning to those things that make you happy until you find one that doesn't just kind of bring you a passing joy. Because those are going to be the things that you go, aha, this is purpose. This is meaningful. This is something that my life actually needs to be revolving around, rather than, this made me happy for a time. I'm just going to keep chasing that. And I know that I have a little bit to speak on that. I know Joe has some that he can speak on it, but I've had that for a very long time. And these are generally addictive things. I don't know that there's any addiction things going on here. That's not for me to say. But I have a very upsetting addiction to soda pop. And it doesn't bring me lasting happiness. It brings me happiness in the moment. And I love to drink it, but it causes me lots of problems. And I wish that I would be rid of it. And there are things that I had in my past, such as pornography, where, hey, this was something that brought me joy in the moment, but didn't bring me lasting joy. And so turning from that to my wife, whom I love, who does bring me lasting joy, as something that is good, it is really the key. I see here you put one part of scrutinizing myself is trying to make sure that I'm not a bad person or something like that. I think that's a good thing. Again, right? You should look back and say, all right, did I inflict this on myself? But at the same time, you're forgiven for that, even if you did. Even if the bad thing was your fault. Even if you are a bad person. That doesn't mean that you can't find joy. And I know that seems counterintuitive. I know that today we want to think, you know what, bad people get the bad things that they deserve. But it turns out a lot of us do bad things.
Mm.
And sometimes it's actually better that even bad people get the good things. And so while you're scrutinizing yourself, again, the scrutinizing yourself is going to make you look at the things that make you unhappy. So to turn from that and focus on something that does bring you happiness is the way out of the downswing. And I've talked far too long on this. I know that Joe knows far more on this than I do. He has been through the roller coaster you've been through the roller coaster. So I'm going to let you give the good advice, Joe. So make me shut up.
Dude, I don't know if I'm gonna have all that great advice at this moment. I'm gonna try my best. And Joe says, I've been through the roller coaster. The truth of the matter is I'm on the roller coaster. Like I'm on it, man, and it's crazy. It is absolutely nuts. So I will ask you, Meow. I would ask you if you have a therapist, and if you don't, it might behoove you to find somebody to talk to, whether it's a counselor, a professional counselor, a counselor at school, somebody who is a professional in mental health to just talk to. It doesn't have to be a psychiatrist. And in fact, in some ways, it's better to start with just a licensed public counselor, a licensed practicing counselor. LPN, I think, is the letters after them, or LPC, whatever. They're not going to automatically put you on some kind of a medication. One of the risks with seeing a psychiatrist is sometimes, they are focused on the medicinal remedy for what's going on, and they might automatically put you on some kind of medication that you might not necessarily need. Now, you might need it, but you can get to that point going through a counselor, to a psychologist, to a psychiatrist, to get to that point where, yes, you do eventually get to the medication. But I would generally think, if we can work things out without medication, it generally is a better deal for us, because then we're not messing with our chemistry to do that. Sometimes it's necessary. But if it's not necessary, it'd be good to avoid it, right? So there's a couple things that you can check off a list. And this is when I first started seeing my therapist. There were just some simple things about how I was living day-to-day life that could be helpful. And one was, how much sleep are you getting? For me, I failed miserably. I've been used to getting 4.5 hours of sleep a night for a long time. Long time. And my therapist was just like, what? No, you should have 7 hours of sleep, at least. And I'm like, really? Like, I don't even know if I can do that anymore. Like, my body naturally wakes up after 4.5 hours. Still, I have to make myself go back to sleep. Like, I wake up and I'm ready to go, and I'm like, I only slept 4.5 hours. I need to go back to sleep. And so I have to force myself back to sleep in order to get the sleep that my therapist is recommending. Another thing is water. How much water are you drinking? I'm in America. I think you're in America too. We as Americans are abysmal at drinking water. absolutely horrible at drinking water. We don't drink enough of it. And so if you're walking around tired and dehydrated, which I normally would, that's going to affect my mental well-being. Right? Another thing is eating. Are you eating good food? Are you eating enough? Are you eating regularly? This is also a thing that can affect, your mental state. So eating, drinking water, sleeping, and exercise, that's another thing. Are you doing something? Are you physically moving your body? Those 4 things really, really, really can have a huge impact on our mental health. And I can attest to that because I have to remind myself, okay, I got to drink more water. I got to drink less coffee and more water, right? I gotta sleep more and eat less. sometimes I need to eat more. I don't know. But those are some things that you can just check on and see, okay, am I doing these things? Am I drinking enough water? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I doing something physically, even if it's just going for a walk? You don't have to go crazy and join a gym and, like become some kind of beefcake or anything. You just start, you can even just do some stretches. That can go a long way. But just doing something physically with your body where you're moving your body. And then eating, like what are you eating? What are you putting in to your body? And is it enough? Like, are you putting enough into your body? One of the things my therapist said right now, I mean, I'm a Catholic, so we have we go through times where we fast from time to time, and my therapist said now is not the time for fasting. Because she asked me about that. She was like, I said, well, I do fast from time to time because I'm Catholic and, that's one of our practices, And she said, okay, now is not the time for that. And I said, well, perfect, because we don't have to fast from food. We can fast from other things. Like we can fast from video games, or we can fast from movies, or whatever. I can fast from my job, or actually, that might not be a good thing. I got to do my job. Excuse me. But if you're going through a time like this, where things can hit you and it just sends your mind into a tailspin, those are some things to check. And I would recommend finding some kind of a therapist, whether it's a counselor, a psychologist, a school counselor, or even a psychiatrist, somebody that you can talk to about this. Because what happens is, they will have insight into how you operate that you might not have thought of. One of the things my therapist told me recently, and this goes right along with what Joe was talking about, if you're scrutinizing, your thinking and your behavior and stuff like that, you're really looking at yourself in a negative light. So really there's this story, like this ancient Native American story about this Native American chief says to one of the young people in the tribe, he says, okay, here's some wisdom on life. There are 2 wolves in each of us. There's a plus wolf and a minus wolf. And the more you feed whichever wolf, it will grow. If you feed negative thoughts, they will get stronger and they will grow. If you feed positive thoughts, they will grow stronger and they will grow. And this isn't something that you do, and it fixes things immediately. This is something that becomes a habit. This is something that becomes a way of life. And the more we put into the positive side of thinking, the more we think about our dreams, the more we think about our purpose, the more we think about the good things we can do in the world, the more we think about those things, the more that positive feeling grows in us. And the closer we get to those purposes and those dreams, the more we feed the defeat and the agony and, the frustration and all the things we screwed up on and everything that we chose wrong, the more we feed that, the more we tend toward depression, anxiety, sadness. We tend toward, and we tend toward those results in our lives as well, the ones that we don't want, but we're focused on them. And so we tend to move in that direction. So be mindful of your thinking. Think about your thinking. And you already are doing that right now. You're asking questions about, okay, my mind is doing this. What is going on, right? So think about your thoughts. What am I thinking right now? Why am I thinking this? I have to interrupt patterns in my head all the time. Like I'll find myself in some negative funk where I'm just like freaking out about something. And then I have to ask myself, what am I thinking? Stop it. Stop. And sometimes I physically say the word stop out loud in Walmart. And everybody thinks I'm crazy.
That's because you're in Walmart.
But I'm in Walmart, so I fit right in, right? You're like, it's great. But the more, if you can learn to pattern interrupt yourself and then switch that will help you go a long way. Other than that, man, that's about the best I got. Joe, did you have anything else on this topic?
I don't even know what more there is to say. It's an intense feeling. These emotions are intense because they've been here a while. Like this isn't you just saying like, I mean, you've indicated on Valentine's Day as very much not feeling the spirit of Valentine's Day.
Yeah, me neither. But I'm going through a divorce. What do you expect? Like,
and I honestly had a staff meeting on Valentine's Day. Like it wasn't like, yeah, let's do this kind of thing. But you've said you've noticed a clear pattern of ups and downs.
Mm.
And that means that you've been experiencing this for a while. Like you've been in it, you've been out of it, and you've been back in it. Which means you've been out before. You know the way out. It's just coming to a place of actually choosing the way out. And like Joe said, it depends on the wolf you want to feed.
Mm.
I remember when I was experiencing a similar kind of scenario, where I was really down, really beaten. I didn't want to do anything. I felt like I had messed up, and I had. I was the bad person in this instance. I didn't have to worry about scrutinizing myself and seeing if I was the bad person. I knew I was the bad person. And what I got to experience was, Joe talks about how you can fast many things. In this instance, I had never fully understood what fasting was until I had this very deep depressive experience. And I realized you don't really have to try very hard when you are emotionally torn too fast, because your heart is so rent that food just sounds awful anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, when I was going through such a time, I was forcing myself to eat. It's like you have to, or you're not gonna live. So you have to eat something. Um, but there's that raw, deep emotional level that you'll get to where you'll say, I don't want this. Like I don't. Like I'm looking at this. This isn't what I want. And again, making that turn to something that is good is probably going to be the most impactful thing that you can do. And I just encourage you, whether it's Don't Worry Wednesday that you come to often, whether or not you're just putting static P tunes on repeat, jamming out, whatever's positive, you want to make that a part of your every day. I think Joe is talking about your health. And of the very few lessons I've heard from a couple of psychologists, it's how often we neglect just the normal everyday for trying to find answers that are quite simply, hey, maybe it's a salad on Tuesday.
Mm.
Maybe it's a cup of water just before bed. Those things don't seem like great, outlandish activities that get you to joy, but those are the activities that get you to joy. So I want to encourage you by saying it isn't. It isn't a big jump. It isn't a big leap. It's not something that you can't do. It's something you can do, and something that you, if you really want to achieve it, can do it tomorrow.
Mm.
It's. I know that it often feels when you're looking at yourself, when you're looking at the negativity, that you've dug yourself a giant, massive hole that you can't get out of. And what you find is when you hit that spot, when you make the turn, you recognize that you've been just kind of digging yourself a hole for forever, and you turn around and you realize I didn't even dig anywhere. I'm already out. There's no hole to get out of. I'm already there. So I want to encourage you and say, look, the you aren't climbing up and out of a giant, deep, dark hole. You're already out. You've just got to make that perspective change. So hopefully that helps you. Hopefully that's some good ideas from myself, from Joe, about some things you might think of. Is there anything else? Any other ideas that we might have hanging out here with us, Joe?
I think Princess might have something. Princess, do you have anything to say on this topic? Princess has
Um,
helped me through some of my issues here, so I mean, I'd be happy to.
and that's one of the largest things about emotions is don't beat yourself up because they're not logical. They're not logic.
Mm.
And as someone who is a very emotional and highly sensitive person, which yes is a term you can look up, I feel things, and that's largely how I'm directed in my life. I understand my feelings, and my feelings help me know. Now, they aren't logic and they aren't truth, and you have to be very careful because emotions
Mm-hmm.
can very easily lead you astray, especially if you're focused so much on what you feel. And
Mm.
and if you see that as your only truth is how I feel is the truth of the world, you're wrong. It's simply a perspective. But there are many ways that you have to live with your emotions. There are some people that are really good at not having strong emotions or turning off their emotions or being like, yep, but I'm just going to throw those aside or push those aside. And there's some amount of learning that you can do, which is again why I think that the recommendation for a therapist or a counselor of some sort would help. Because what I'm kind of noticing is that you don't understand your emotions and you don't know how to navigate yourself to understand your emotions. Many people are on cycles and they kind of have those up and downs. My up and downs tend to be higher, faster up and downs, where it's, my phases, if you want to look at it that way, might last minutes to hours. But there's also underlying phases I have that last much longer, that are days, months, years, that just kind of exist, you
Mm.
know? So, and that's okay. That's okay. And it's okay to have emotions. There is nothing wrong with having emotions. I feel like sometimes logical people tend to be like, well, you don't need emotions, but there's nothing wrong with emotions and they can be beautiful and they can be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they can also be hurtful because they are a tool, a powerful tool that helps you to connect with things, right? So on Valentine's Day, you probably had some expectation of, oh man, I'm really looking forward to something that's going to happen, right? And then it kind of doesn't really work out, or it never appears, or no one ever instigates that or starts it. or nobody says like Happy Valentine's Day, or nobody gives you a card, or nobody sends you a message or gives you a heart or says be my Valentine, or has little treats or something in the day that you just were looking forward to, doesn't happen. And you start being like, oh, well, I really hoped that something would happen. But what was it? And sometimes you don't even know it. You're like, oh man, I'm not feeling great today. But it was because you were looking for something. There was something missing, and you have to figure out what the piece is. But if you don't know what questions to ask or where to look or what you're doing, emotions can be very overwhelming and can be very confusing because they're not going to be straightforward. They're not going to follow logic. You know, you might feel horrible in the moment. You're like, man, why am I feeling this? Was it lunch? Was it what somebody said? No. And it might have been 3 days ago you had a conversation with somebody that's just now catching up to you, and all of a sudden that's what it is. And it's just weighing on your heart little by little, drip by drip, until eventually it builds up enough that you're like, man, my chest really hurts. Well, maybe I'll listen to a song or distract myself, or, oh, I really shouldn't be feeling this way. Everything's going wonderfully. Why do I feel horrible? Well, there's probably something there that's not addressed, right? And it's okay if it's not the things in front of you. And it's wonderful, and it's good to focus on the good things you have. Like, you probably had a great day. Somebody might have said hi, or you got to enjoy a meal together with family, or anything. There's many wonderful things. But just because you have wonderful things doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be okay, that you're going to feel great about your day, that everything's going to be just fine in that sense of emotion. It doesn't mean logically that things aren't fine. Things could be fine. But that doesn't mean emotionally that your needs are being met there, because you have emotional needs. Everyone does. Now, some emotional needs are much larger, and some emotional needs are much smaller. And some emotional needs come in forms of I need kind of to hear something, or I need to feel something, or I need to see something. There's many different ways that we can have needs, and they don't need to be overwhelming, but it can be hard, especially if they don't get addressed. They're going to sit there and be like, hey, I'm hungry. Like how your stomach growls when you need food. Even if you don't feel it logically, like, oh, I don't need food right now, your stomach's letting you know that there's a need there that needs to be filled. Maybe it's not right now, and maybe your stomach doesn't quite understand logically everything going on and how to work through stuff, but there's still a need that needs to be met, right? So if you don't know what they are, then it would be good to have someone who can really help you walk through that. I'm not going to be very good at teaching that because it's an instinct to me. Now, I'm a very emotional person, so I feel a variety of things, and I can be up and down like a zigzag within a loop or whatever that is, sine curve, cosine curve, whatever math term you want to use. But in some ways, it's an emotional intelligence about yourself. It's knowing what you feel and learning about what that means and what you need. Because sometimes what you need isn't the thing that your emotional need actually needs. Perhaps all you need is to feel loved. Then what you need to do is seek out something that's going to fulfill that need. It doesn't need to be the thing that you were originally hoping for or wanting for, that maybe you don't know what it was. But if you can find out what that basic root of it is, then you can fulfill that and you can find yourself a way forward, rather than bottling it up or throwing it aside or saying it's not there, or, And I know that you're saying, well, what happens is but when it comes to I view myself, not very logically, when it comes to emotions, I don't think I don't need them, just question them. And questioning can be good, but you have to be very careful, because emotions are very good at rabbit holes. Let me find an example. Man, I hurt today. What's up? Well, I mean, that guy was kind of rude to me yesterday. He, mentioned that I was like not being considerate, but I was very considerate. Or was it something I did? Maybe I wasn't considerate of. Could I have done it better? Maybe I should have. Maybe it was that. Maybe I need to be much more on top of things. Maybe that would really solve that problem. Or maybe it was, that conversation I had, and I got really upset, but I really shouldn't have been, like they did this and they did that, it's not real. It's, when you invalidate yourself in your line of thinking, or questioning things that don't actually lead you to understanding yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can question and be like, why are you here? And it might be like, well, I'm hurt. Okay, why are you hurt? Because I've been hurt. Thanks, but that didn't answer my question. What you need to do with it is you need to be like, okay, well, is this sort of the direction that the hurt was in? Was it because of something someone said? And you'd be like, well, maybe I felt some hurt over there, like at tsundere, and then you have to go investigate, and maybe you'll find out that, yes, there was some hurt there, and you resolve it. But your heart says, but I'm still hurt. It's like, okay, heart, what else is hurting you? What other direction? Is it, that I didn't do something I should have? No, I did everything I should have. Is it because I, did something in particular? Well, maybe, it's like, okay, well, elaborate on that, you know. But it's still with the intent of figuring out what your need is and being kind to yourself, because beating yourself up or being like anyway invalidating of your emotions tends to leave you more confused and lost than where you started. And again, let's see. As long as it's the same. The feelings I had towards around Valentine's Day are kind of its own topic, which I might do a topic on in some form at some point. Yeah, and you can. And if it's about the video, then I understand the disappointment or wanting something as a project to get done on a certain deadline, And it can be hard when you've worked hard, or you think you've worked really hard to get something, and you've done all the things and you've done all you can do, and it doesn't happen. It ends up where it is, and it's on someone else's plate, and you've, maybe perhaps they've, had a hard time or something, and they've mentioned that, and you've been like, oh, well, I didn't mean to press you or anything. That wasn't my intention or goal, But no, it wasn't the video. That's fine. But anyways,
Thank you for that.
make sure that you don't beat yourself up, but also don't. It's okay to have an expectation and for it to not happen. And it's okay for it to have been on somebody else's plate. Like, there are things that you can control and things you can't control. One thing you can control with effort and intention is your emotions. It's very hard to do because it takes a lot of convincing. And you have to look at it from a perspective of yourself to understand where you are coming from, and from another perspective to see where you want to go, where you want to be. And you have to marriage the 2 points together of, yes, I understand where I was, understand where I want to be, and I marry them together so that I can be there. So I think that I've done probably a lot more talking than I should or need to, so I'm going to move it on back to Joe and Joe.
Princess, you're awesome. Thank you. And I need to listen to you more, I think. I need to listen to both of you guys more, actually. I've listened to your guys' advice, and I'm like, man, I could use this advice. It's great. Meow says in the chat, it was more observing everyone around me enjoying their Valentine's days and seeing all the gifts at school and things like that. I understand. It can be disheartening when there's something going on and we feel kind of left out. I understand. One thing I know about you though, Meow, I have to say, I know you're a good musician. I know you're a songwriter. I know that that's something you've worked hard and trained at. I have found as a musician that playing, writing, composing, all of that stuff is a tremendous outlet for any kind of emotion. Lyric writing is another thing. I mean, I have a habit I do every morning where I set a timer for 10 minutes and I just write words because I was like, you know what? I need to get better at writing lyrics. I need to get better at this. This is a bottleneck for our company. You know, we want to produce more music. Lyrics are hard for all of us. There's nobody that's really proficient and fast at writing lyrics. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to get better at it. And, you know, I've done this exercise for a while. Interestingly enough, you know, with all the stuff I'm facing right now, my lyrics are kind of dark. So I have to give anybody I'm working on a project with, I'm just like, okay, I'd be happy to write lyrics for this, but you just got to understand it's probably going to be a little bit on the dark side right now, just because. And they're like, nope, totally understand. I get you. And that's totally fine. But, you know, where you're at, you know, emotions are a tremendous place to grab creative energy from. They can be useful tools. Even like all emotions have a use. We don't like the feeling of sadness. We don't like the feeling of anger. We don't like the feeling of frustration. We don't like these feelings because they're uncomfortable. But they can be just as useful and sometimes more useful than the feelings we enjoy, like happiness and pleasure and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, I remember Steve, he's BSS company president, and he's in a single duel with me, and I remember coming to him at the beginning of all of this garbage that I'm now in the middle of, and it was really a struggle, and it's continued to be a struggle. And he told me at one point, he's like, you know, I'm really glad you're going through this, and I'm like, what? He's like, because I know you, and I know how good of material you come up with when you're in that place. And I've said it before too, I know this about myself. The best music I've ever written, I've written from places of hard times. Some of the best music I wrote was after I broke up with my first girlfriend years ago. I wrote some tremendous music. I was in a great jam band. We had a good time, you know, and I wrote some really good songs. That was some of the best music I ever wrote. Another time, I was working on my first project with Ryan, and I was in the process of losing our house. We couldn't afford it anymore, and we were losing our house. And the strain and the hardship of going through that time led to some of my best music that I've written. So, Long Hair Joe. That would have been early on. That would have been when I broke up with my with my first girlfriend. That was the band that when you saw those pictures, that was the band I was in when that was happening. The Long Hair Joe. But I tell you, you can have an outlet for your emotions. If it's anger you're feeling, exercise, you know, something physical, something that makes you out of breath or sweat or whatever. For me, it's drums or punching my heavy bag for martial arts or doing some kind of exercise program. You know, if I am angry, that's what I do. If I'm sad or depressed, music is it. I'll just pick up an instrument and I'll just start playing, and I'll play forever. I'll just play for hours. This project, Meow, you know, I played bass for this project we're working on. You know, I've only been playing bass for like a month. Hopefully that bass part is okay. I mean, I try to do as close to the original as possible. But through all the stuff I'm going through, I've had a lot of time to play the bass because I know that in sadness and hard times like that, I'll just pick up the bass now because that's my new love. That's the instrument I'm falling in love with right now. So I tell you, there are things you can take these emotions, you can take these feelings, and you can channel them into useful places. It's great. Even though it's hard and it's painful. But I tell you, find a therapist. It would be good thing for you to find a therapist. It'd be a good thing to remember that you have an outlet for your energy. You have a creative outlet. And understand that emotions are temporary. Remember that for sure. Princess talked about, her ups and downs and like the sine wave that she's talking about. Mine is it would be a low pitch, let's just say. Very long wavelength. I'm not an up and down emotionally kind of person. Now, depending on what I'm going through, sometimes it can just come out of the blue. But what I have to remember, I have to always remind myself, this is going to pass. It's going to change. I'm not going to feel this way forever. And I'm not going to be able to necessarily choose how long I feel this way. But it will change. Something will happen and it will change. And it'll do the same for you. And if you can remind yourself of that, that can be a little bit of comfort as you're going through a really difficult emotional time. To just know that it is going to end. You're not going to be stuck there forever. I promise. So, like, he was long-haired Joe. Now he's no-haired Joe. Why did long-haired Joe get the cut? Well, that's nobody's business but the Joe. I'll tell you why. I had long hair. I woke up with it too many times in my armpit. Or
Oh my.
or I woke up and I'd put my hand down on it and I'd push myself up off the bed and it'd be like, it'd like yank my hair off, and I'd be like, I finally just got frustrated with it and I cut my hair. And the gal I was dating at the time, she didn't talk to me for like a week because I didn't tell her. I just went and got my hair cut. She was so mad. It's amazing. I don't know, think about how girls with long hair feel. Man, I respect you. Girls with long hair, Ryan has the long hair.
People with long hair have a lot extra to deal with.
Yeah. Man, it's easy for me. I get up, a couple times a week, I shave this thing. That's what I do. But I get up, I don't have to do anything with it. I have to wear a hat to keep myself warm, but that's it. When do we
you
get
sunscreen?
When I remember.
Oh, Joe, no.
Poor Joe.
Most of the time in the summertime, I just get head peel, But yeah, it's awesome. But anyway, we have taken a long time on this show. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. You guys are amazing. Joe, did you have any closing remarks?
No, other than to say that the chat and the people who are here are very remarkable. But that's the only remark I have. Thank you all for being here. It has been a pleasure to fill in and to just talk with you all. You all look beautiful. Thank you for showing us your stunning presence.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I don't have anything other to say than that. So, Joe, take us away.
All right. Yes, Joe, thank you for being with us. Princess, thank you also for being with us and for being willing to show your lovely face on camera. We're going to do it again just because. There she is.
No, Joe, go away.
Fine, okay. You're not on anymore.
Thank you.
I love you.
Love you too.
Anyway, you guys are so awesome. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for hanging out and spending this time on Wednesday with us. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you for the topics. If you have a topic, feel free to send it to our website, don'tworrywednesday.com. The link is in the description, and you can just hit the submit a topic button and submit a topic right there, and we'd be happy to handle it on this show. Thank you guys for everything. We could not do this show without your support. And in the meantime, until next Wednesday, have a great week, and we'll see you next time right here on Don't Worry Wednesday. Until then, have a great week.
Bye.